And then she goes on to tell me how she has this letter for me that Sarah left. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm like, when can I come by and get it? Well, I don't think that that's necessary. How about you just give me your new address and I'll just mail it there. I knew, because she was always trying to figure out where I lived all the time. Because she's a psycho. Hey, what's up, guys? Dale Valor here for Modern Valor Dating. Today, we're going to be talking about the top 7 red flags to look out for when you're trying to kick it with a girl, right? So we're going to hop into that right now. Let's go. Number 1, understand what a red flag is. I think pretty much everybody with any kind of sense knows what red flags are. I mean, it's very common vernacular. We all know that, like, they're things to watch out for, right? But here's the thing. I'm going to run down 6 red flags to look out for. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you're the one that decides what a red flag is to you. Okay, there's things that I have in criteria that I screen for, which we did in another video. You might want to check that out. But there's certain things that I look out for that not everybody looks out for. That are things that are specific to me. So understand what it is that's specific to you and make sure that you screen for those things and you look out for those red flags that are red flags for you. All right, so we're gonna hop into the first red flag. Tip number 2, let's go. Number 2, borderline personality disorder, BPD. Okay, I don't know if you've ever experienced being with a girl that has borderline personality disorder. I certainly have. All right. The thing with that is, if you don't know what that is, basically they are impossible to please, okay? They, obviously there's certain extremes, if it's an extreme case, if you've ever seen The Sopranos, Tony Soprano's mother is a very good example of somebody with borderline personality disorder, okay? So the thing is that they're impossible to please. They don't know what happiness or joy is. They don't experience it. It's a feeling that is foreign to them. They don't understand it, and so you're never going to make them happy. They like to play the martyr. They like to play the victim, and so they make things about them. Everything is about them by using guilt trips. So now, somebody that I had a relationship with that has this particular disorder was on the other end of that spectrum. She wasn't a severe case, but she would say things in anger or spite that were completely not true and it just wasn't a part of who she was 99% of the time. But that 1% of the time, she would say things that were so contrary to her personality that it was shocking to me. And I couldn't believe it, but when I started studying, because she told me she had that, and I had never heard it before, and when I started looking into it and seeing what it was, then it started making sense. If a girl has that, my advice would be tread lightly, okay? It's not somebody that you likely want to have a part of your life on a consistent basis. So just know that. We're going to hop into tip number 3. Let's go. Tip number 3, bipolar disorder, all right? Bipolar people have extremes. Now, every one of these circumstances, keep in mind, there's a spectrum. You have people that are severe cases, and then you have people that aren't severe cases, that they're just barely that, okay? So, I'm kind of talking in a general sense, so please understand that. I'm not saying that this is how all people are. I'm just speaking in generalities, all right? So, somebody with bipolar disorder, they have extreme ups and downs, all right? They tend to be depressive. But when they're up, they're really, really up. And where it just, life is great, and they're just energetic, ready to go, focus on 1,000 different things, going around just doing all this stuff. And then the next day they wake up in a depressive state where the world is terrible and it's just doom and gloom, and, they don't want to live, So the thing is that one of the ways that I screen for that, because that is not somebody that I want as a part of my life. Not to say that they're bad people or anything like that, but it's not for me and for what I'm trying to do. So, keep in mind that one of the ways that you can screen for bipolar disorder, or really any of these disorders, see, I'm ADD. All right, and I used to take ADD medication for it, and I don't anymore, but I'm familiar with what kind of medication that you should take for ADD. I'll say something about me being like, oh, my bad, I wasn't paying attention, I'm so ADD, my bad. What was you saying? Oh, I was saying this, da, 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 da. So what I'll do is, I will say something to the effect of like, hey, listen, oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. What did you say? I've got ADD, and sometimes that happens. Just, my bad. What was you saying? And then they'll go ahead and explain it. And I'll be like, I'll start talking about ADD medication, how I used to take it and how it used to make me feel and stuff like that. And I'll be like, do you take any kind of medication at all or anything like that? Just kind of like saying it on a whim, like it's spur of the moment kind of thing. And if they start telling me medications that I know are for bipolar disorder, borderline personality, now I know where they're coming from and what kind of mental illnesses that they might have. All right, so that's a really good way to screen for this if it's not something that you feel to be something you want as a part of your life. All right, so we're gonna hop into the next tip. Let's go. Number 4. This is a huge red flag. I don't think I really need to explain it, but I will anyway for the sake of the video. Psycho. All right. So, many women, if you push them far enough, they can turn crazy on you. Okay. I think that that's something that everybody can understand and everybody knows. But here's the thing. There are certain ways that you can look out for that and screen for that before it happens to you. I'll give you an example of something that happened for my own life, all right? There was a girl that I knew that she had some kooky tendencies, okay? And I thought maybe she was just a bit eccentric and just like, she's just a character, and I liked her, so I kind of just overlooked it, kind of glossed over it, and it really didn't come back to bite me too much. Actually, what happened was kind of hilarious, but nonetheless, things could have went another direction, and so this girl, we stopped talking, we ended up breaking it off, but on a monthly basis, she would get in touch with me. All right. She would hit me up, just ask me how I'm doing. And I'd be like, oh, I'm doing good. Hope you're doing well. And then she would go into about how her life is terrible. So the thing is that she would hit me up. She would ask me how I was doing. And I'd be like, hey, I'm doing good. How are you? And she would say, my life is terrible, and give me and run down all these reasons why her life sucks. I really didn't have any interest in talking to her anymore, so I would just be like, oh, I hope things get better, and just kind of leave it at that. The next month, the same thing. This would happen. Then it kind of slowed down to where it was like every couple of months. Well, one day, she texts me with, Dale, question mark, question mark, question mark. I'm like, yeah, how are you? She's like, oh, this is Sarah's mom. Sarah passed away last night, and she wanted me to get in touch with you and tell you how much that she loved you and how much that she wishes things would have worked out and that you would be a part of her life and this and that. Now, this girl has a history of lying. So I wasn't believing this, especially through text message. So I was like, oh, that's too bad. Where can I send flowers? Oh, well, I asked her, no, I'm sorry. I asked her, well, what happened? You know? And, well, she had cervical cancer. She got diagnosed with it, and she didn't want to put anybody through any problems or hassle or anything like that. So she took her own life. And I'm like, oh no. So now I'm starting to think, well, maybe on the outside chance that this really happened, let me just not be a dick. So I was like, well, that's too bad. Where can I send flowers? And she's like, oh, she expressed in her letter that she left that she didn't want anybody sending flowers or anything like that. Okay. Well, when's the funeral going to be? I'll make it to the funeral. You know what? She also said that she didn't want to have a funeral. Oh, okay. All right. And then she goes on to tell me how she has this letter for me that Sarah left. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm like, when can I come by and get it? Well, I don't think that that's necessary. How about you just give me your new address and I'll just mail it there. I knew, because she was always trying to figure out where I lived all the time, because she's a psycho. So she's always trying to figure out where I live. So by no means was I giving her my address. So what I did was, now mind you, I'm sending screenshots to this other girl that I'm kicking it with, who's finding all of this hilarious. So she's like, give her my address. And I'm like, you sure? She's like, yeah, just give her my address. I want to see what happens. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I give her my girl's address. Then one day, Sarah shows up at her house, knocking on the door. Is Dale here? And she's like, no, he's not here, actually. Can I take a message, or can I tell him you stopped by? Yeah, just tell him that Sarah stopped by. So now my girl is texting me, blowing up my phone. Dale, that girl just came by. I just talked to her. And then I get a text message from the dead girl. You lied to me. You didn't give me the right address. And I was like, look who's back from the dead, you know? So anyway, long story short, well, a long story, not as long as I would normally tell it. The girl was nuts, all right? Now, had I looked out for these kind of white lies and these just very kind of odd behaviors and stuff like that I glossed over, I could have probably seen something, a crazy episode happening down the road. But I didn't look for that because I liked her. So what I'm saying is, watch out for weird behaviors, stuff that just isn't congruent with their personality. Like little white lies and things like that. Over time, that can add up to somebody just being absolutely out of their mind. All right, we're going to hop into the next tip. Let's go. Tip number 5, clingy behavior. It starts off kind of nice, kind of pumps up your ego a little bit when a girl is so on your jock that she's like texting you often and calling you and things like that. The problem with that is, if you let it linger and you don't respond back in the time frame that they see adequate, then it becomes a huge problem for them, because they're investing so much into you, they want a return on that investment. And if they're not getting it, it becomes very upsetting, which turns into more clinginess. And, just if you were getting 5 texts a day and you're not responding to all 5 texts in a timely manner, that's going to ramp up to 10. Okay, in a short amount of time. Those 10 texts are going to start turning into phone call after phone call after phone call after phone call, because they want reassurance in that you're into them. It's a self-esteem issue, all right? So a way to look out for that is, if a girl is talking about how good she used to look a few years ago, that if she's probably not, you probably don't think I'm as pretty as those other girls. things like that, that can start leading to clinginess, especially if you give into it. If you're like, no, you're the most beautiful woman in the world, things like that. You're feeding into it. You're being an enabler to her clinginess, and it's going to come back to bite you because you're never going to give her enough attention for her to be satisfied. Okay, so watch out for that. Test for that. We're going to hop into the next tip. Let's go. Tip number 6, jealousy. Jealousy is basically clinginess's cousin. All right, there's a lot of carryover that go from one to the other. But the thing with jealousy is it's rooted in fear. It's fear of losing you. And so what ends up happening is, when she starts feeling jealous, or she's a very jealous type of personality, she's going to start dictating to you what you can and can't do. So, in other words, I don't like when you hang out with your friends. They're bad news. I don't like those guys. It's going to be nothing but trouble. I don't like when you go to the gym by yourself. There's too many girls there, and I don't want you seeing them working out. I don't like when you go to the mall by yourself. It just opens the door for women to come talk to you. Things like that. When she starts mandating what you can and can't do, it's rooted in jealousy, which is rooted in fear. All right. There's things that you can do to combat that, but if it's something that, if it's just a girl you're kicking with, a way that you can screen for that is to say that you're going to be going to the strip club with your boys on Saturday. See how she reacts to that. If she flies off the handle about it, and it's just a girl that, you've maybe hung out with a couple of times or something like that, and she's way over the top, that she has a jealous personality, don't go down that road, okay? But if she's cool, she's just like, yeah, whatever, all right, cool. I'll talk to you on Sunday or whatever. All right, fine. You see that maybe she's not the jealous type. But this is a trap that a lot of guys fall in. The cool trap, all right? My girlfriend is cool. In other words, she's disguising jealousy by being cool. And by cool, what I mean is, you're going to the strip club with the boys? I'm just like one of the guys. I'm going to come too. You're hanging out with your boys, you're going to a bachelor party. Oh, all right, that sounds fun. I'm coming too because I'm cool. I'm like one of the fellas. All right. A lot of times that's a mask for jealousy. All it is she wants to be a security guard to keep an eye on you. All right, make sure that you're not, banging one of the strippers or whatever the case might be. So don't fall into the cool trap. That's a trap that a lot of guys fall into. Oh my girl, man, I can't believe how cool this girl is. She doesn't have a problem with me going to the strip club. She doesn't have a problem with me hanging out. She doesn't have a problem. Bro, I'm telling you, just be careful. Now, she may be actually cool. I'm not saying that this is across the board. I'm just saying it's something to watch out for, okay? All right, we're going to hop into the next tip. Let's go. All right, this is the last tip here. So, don't fall in the alpha trap, okay? Here's what I mean by that. So, the thing is that she's going to want stuff, and every girl is going to have her own quirks. And so do you. Everybody has their own quirks to their personality and things like that. Not everything is a red flag. Some things are yellow flags, Just try your best to judge what those red flags are. And as we started the video, the things that are red flags for you, okay? A lot of the red flags that we talked about are red flags for me, all right? But I think a lot of guys don't want mental instability in their life. What I mean by the alpha trap is try to find out the reason why her behaviors are her behaviors, good or bad. Okay, what's the why behind it? Now, if she has behaviors that you don't like, and say she has one of these mental illnesses, she has some kind of character flaws or some kind of just whatever the case might be, right? Understand that these are things that could be chemical imbalances in the brain, all right, that need medication or need therapy or need something, all right? You're not going to likely influence her in another direction, all right? So what I mean by the alpha trap is this. You're not going to out-alpha her mental illness. A lot of guys fall into this trap of, If I'm alpha enough, if I'm assertive enough, if my boundaries are secure enough, it will put her in her place and she'll just fall in line and be attracted to me. Well, in the general sense, I would agree with you, but not in this sense. Not in the sense when we're talking about mental illnesses, all right? I don't care how alpha you think that you are or that you are, okay? You're never going to be so alpha that it's going to make her mental illness go away and just have her fall in line. It's almost akin to her being a diabetic or her having cancer or something like that. If I'm alpha enough, she will be healed. You know what I mean? It doesn't work like that. The way that it works is you have to judge if these red flags are something you don't want in your life or not. That's the real alpha move, deciding what's best for you. And listen, if there's red flags that I didn't cover that you have that are red flags to you, put them in the comment section. I would love to chop it up with you guys about what other red flags that there are and share my insights on it, okay? So if you get value out of this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell. We want to be able to chop it up with you. We want to be able to get these videos to you the best way that we can, all right? So we're going to see you in the next video. I'm Dale Valor from Modern Valor Dating. Salute.